So I wanted to start with data automation, which I think is really the foundation of any sort of use case for AI. And I wanted to direct that first question to Christian, being that company that really helps transform a lot of these different data inputs into workflows, right? Yeah, maybe you can share with us a little bit of how data automation can really set up success for a company or an organization when they're trying to explore AI use cases, why that's important. Maybe share some examples that you've seen.
Yeah. I think there's such a universe of opportunity within the company, but first and foremost, what we always tell our customers, if you don't have your data readily available, you're never going to use AI, because that is the foundation for AI. And when we look at current workflows, it's very easy. We ask the customer, okay, what's your as-is workflow? And then we will give them a to-be workflow, and that usually opens their eyes. Okay, right now we have multiple different entities coming together in a centralized function, and that team is having to sort of sort out everything, double check multiple systems, create lists and update things. And so that is where we would come in, and we would structure workflows for them that would usually be mostly autonomous and take over that part. What is really happening is we're bringing a lot of workflow data to life. So what is currently done in between the lines that takes away efficiency? Sometimes it's very basic. It says, okay, all of our data is locked into PDF and Excel files. Can we just digitize that and have it somewhere in a cloud or somewhere readily available? That is usually step one. But what comes immediately after is, okay, so now we have that data. How can we help you use it, or even make it sort of automatic flow, right? So this is where we attack first, and that would already reduce a bit of that manual handling internally, and a lot of that work that we're potentially doing manually right now. And as a next step, yeah, then we look into other areas on how we can enhance that overall workflow using that data. Okay. Some of the early wins for our customers are usually around the ERP system, as I mentioned earlier. How does all of it get updated at the end of the day? Yeah, if you're issuing a purchase order, and then how does all of that checks and all of the mechanisms come together until you can finally file that in NetSuite, for example, and call that done and ticked, right? And there's a lot of inefficiencies in that little process alone, and that is where we would come in and basically provide support for you.
Any interesting kind of implementation stories that you might be able to share?
Yeah. So first of all, our product has two effects. One is time savings. That is what we usually feel is an immediate value add. And then comes cost savings, right? Time could be money at certain times. And what we always say to customers is, when you're doing things in a certain way, then you always want to look into, okay, how can I make the other side more happy on the other end, waiting for me to get back to them? Now, if we're looking at the finance process, that will be a vendor or your supplier network. If it's a customer side, stay as a customer. They want to hear from you sooner. And for some companies, we have achieved some really incredible things, in my opinion, where we had brought the process down from 100% time to 93% of the time, 97% time savings in a process. And that allowed them to issue basically remittance advice earlier and made their vendors really happy. Because, of course, you want to get paid sooner, but at least on time is something that you want to achieve, right? And we really help them to nail that to the T. I think that is something that all companies will want to look into, just to make sure that they are compliant internally, and they have that data to also rely on that. And so this is what we're helping with.
You did mention about freeing up workloads and really shaping productivity of teams through solutions like yours, which leads me to the next topic of what is really the impact on the people side of things once you start these processes and this transformation. And so I would like to direct my question to Franco on that one from NetSuite, to really talk about how do you think about the people side, people transformation when undergoing AI implementation, AI solution implementation?
AI helps the organization, right? It's about empowering them to do things in a more efficient manner. But obviously, when we talk to organizations, we look at it holistically, like what Christian mentioned. AI will not more or less work if you don't have the structured data. So we look at it all together. And when you implement AI and ERP all together, that's where the cohesion or complementary solution or effect comes into the picture, because structured data is, I would say, the training fuel of any AI solution. You need that data to be structured so that AI can learn and train on and provide the necessary effect. Now, How does it affect people? As again, they provide efficiency, they provide the necessary workflow to make their work better. So it's more of we're providing them tools to do more with less. But it's not about as well like the other side of it. Does that mean we're replacing people for that? Definitely no. It's more of we provide the tools to make them more efficient, but in the same way, it's about giving them that productivity. Productivity in such a way that, like again, in that use case that Christian mentioned, you're trying to transfer files from a hard copy or PDF into the NetSuite engine or any engine. But most of the time, when we talk to people, a lot of these are people who are college graduates or masters, but all they do at the work is they try to encode things, which is not productive. So when we introduce an ERP engine with an embedded AI engine, it's about giving them that productivity. And of course, if they're not going to do that data encoding, then that means empowering them to do more. Rather than data encoding, we provided aspects of reforming them into doing more productive work like analyzing things, giving them more strategic aspects of the business, which again makes them more productive, and of course it affects the business altogether in that sense.
So it seems pretty intuitive for teams, I guess, to want to use these types of solutions, but do you see any kind of like barriers to adoption when it comes to these types of AI solutions? When it comes to the other people's side, perhaps? Like,
But the barrier is holistically is people nowadays AI is everybody wants to go to AI. So what we ask them is, what about AI? What is it about the AI that you want to do? So it's again going back to the basic of what's the use case that you want to do so that we can present the necessary solution for you to implement it as marketing strategies. And that of course obviously goes back into that solutioning process and understanding what are the use cases. And of course part of that process of affecting people is obviously when you implement a solution, it's also about giving them the necessary tools and training for them to effectively execute that type. So it's not just implementing an AI strategy, it's just not just about getting an AI solution, quickly you say that, oh, we're now AI-centric. It's about the balance of the people, the productivity solutions, and the process that goes all together.
do you have an example from a client or partner that you work with in terms of how they've implemented it and with real clarity around how they want to use AI?
AI-embedded ERP solutions will propose something because it will analyze the data and propose something like the aspect of procurement, for example, is it will analyze how much are you supposed to procure because you want to support the sales business into it. So AI-embedded ERP will analyze the data and propose the recommended quantities, for example. But where the human aspect will come in as well there is that, these are suggestions from the business tool. The human angle is still important there because you get that recommendations from the AI tool, but you still need that human angle and strategic and analytic angle that, is this enough from this suggestion? Suggested now, and maybe next week is, or we're coming into, for example, Christmas season is coming. So it's more than just getting that quick recommendation from the AI engine, but you also put intuition and analytics and strategies there so that, if I'm going, if the engine is suggesting for me to buy 1,000 pieces, but I know that Christmas season is coming and maybe we have a sales program, promotions that we're also crafting in as an organization, then obviously that human angle is also saying that you need to buy more or get more on top of that recommended information from the engine.
I think a main takeaway so far is really having clarity on what use case you want for any particular AI solution. And I think AWS in particular does help a lot of startups and businesses find clarity in the AI use cases that they want to explore. Maybe Padre, you can talk about how do you think about experimentation and finding that clarity. Maybe share some examples with organizations you work with to explore these types of use cases. Yeah.
Sure, thanks, Paul. We saw this entire curve of everybody experimenting and everybody trying different things. I think you mentioned about how everybody was saying we just need AI in everything, and it also was in 2022 and early 2023. We saw a lot of that happening across the world, right? Everybody was just trying to do AI. Pitch decks changed to having AI in them, and everything was just about trying some use case with AI. Over time, I feel like there are 2 or 3 core areas that have matured in some sense. It's still all new, but it's where we've seen the most ROI for companies that started using AI. One definitely was in the entire customer chat and customer conversations and those kind of things, customer support. Being able to, one, try to get your customer supports more productive by getting them data and information at their fingertips so that they can respond faster. So the main metric that we're looking at there was lesser wait on call times and faster time to respond to a customer support query. And the second was also to try and automate some of that and get an AI assistant instead of a human assistant talking to resolve at least the very common kind of queries and things. Some part of it was also used in another pillar of what we saw a lot of people do was outbound marketing. A lot of it was again trying to do, either it was voice-based calling or it was even in terms of helping design marketing campaigns and then executing them end to end and being very dynamic on that. And the third one, which is I think the one that has impacted most organizations in a positive way, has been productivity. Both in terms of the information worker or business kind of productivity, getting our data analysis done very quickly, or it has been about developer productivity, being able to write code much faster, do things much faster, etc. These are the three main areas, right? Customer support, the kind of productivity use cases, as well as some bit of the information retrieval and outbound marketing and those kind of things that have been what we have seen as the more mature sort of use cases.
Say, a startup comes to you guys and say, oh, all my competitors are using AI for something or whatnot, and I also want to incorporate AI, but I'm not really sure how. What kind of process or journey do you map out for them to really understand how they can properly integrate AI, and if they are ready to do it?
Yeah, we definitely don't start by saying, okay, let's list all the competitors that are using it. We start by looking at what are the specific use cases that could be interesting. And one of the interesting ways in which my team tried a few things, and one of the mechanisms that has worked for us is we start doing little hackathons within the organization. So there's enough people in the organization that are using tools like ChatGPT or other tools already, and they know what AI can do to some extent, right? So we create like a one-day event, and we get some people from the development team, some people from maybe a business team like finance or HR or things team up, and then it's a competition within the organization, and we try to identify use cases, and we help them with the tools and the things that they need to develop those things. We give them a quick like a crash course on how to build such applications. In many cases, without even requiring to write any code, we have tools that let you just prompt the entire application and build these things. And then they know what's best for their organization. They know the pain points of their organization, right? So they go and build little tools for their organization. It's a competition. And at the end of that, you get a bunch of ideas, and you also get a bunch of things that the team can then decide, the management can then decide to further pursue and make it into a more production-ready application. Right? So that's basically one of the things that has worked really well for us in being able to discover use cases as well as be able to then have a structured way of taking them to production.
We actually discussed one such use case of going through that process in the playbook, so you can check that out as well later. Yeah, we've talked about data automation, we've talked about people transformation as well, we've talked about experimentation and how to think more clearly about cases within AI. I want to jump a little further into the deep end, into the cutting edge, and talk about generative AI and AI agents in particular, which I think Wisdom AI is doing a lot of work in. Alex, maybe you can share a little bit about what does this, because I think AI agents is a pretty new concept, so it's thrown around a lot. So maybe you can explain to us what AI agents mean for the business context and how you've seen it develop so far from Wiz.
Okay, thank you. This is actually a very big question, right? Before we touch the AI agent, I want to express where we are and what will be the near future for the AI transformation, right? AI transformation, basically, we didn't really just treat it as a technology shift, but we think this is a kind of a part of the business innovation. So currently practice, there are a lot of the enterprise, they're using AI in three categories. Number one is to improve the efficiency. Number two is to innovate their process. Number three, they're trying to gain better customer service. We thought we are concentrating on the customer service and also customer engagement and also help customers grow. But in the near future, we think the AI transformation will go into hyper personalization and will go to build up the brand new process for most of their business and also try to build up their own domain knowledge base so that they can help their people, help their customer to grow in the new era. AI agent is a direction. We are trying to let the AI bot or AI service or products to be more effective. Comparing with the traditional AI products, the AI agent actually, one of the strong points is they are autonomy and adaptive, meaning they can carry out the AI service with the new information and change its experience, change its plan without much human beings intervention. So this is one of the very important feature of the AI agent. However, the difficulty is currently we cannot 100% manage the large language models hallucination. We're trying to pave a way to have the AI agent can improve themselves and can learn from their own experience. That's pretty difficult. So this is one thing a lot of people trying to overcome the obstacles for the AI agent. Number two, AI agent, they can to do the interactive engagement with the customer on live basis. I can give you guys an example, right? Currently, a lot of the bank's service, where you call the customer service hotline, basically you are listening to a very long conversation saying, oh, if you want to check your bank balance, press 1. If you want to make complaints, press 2. It will count the numbers from number 1 till number 9. It takes a lot of time. But now, what we provide to the customer, our AI agent, our talkbots, when people call in the bank, you just tell what you want. And the bot will directly answer majority of your answers. And if the bot cannot manage the questions out of the box, he will hot transfer to the human agents to get the help. The AI agents are smart, interactive with the customer engagement will change the rule. So your customers' experience or the customer satisfaction will be greatly improved. Number 3, AI agent, because its own understanding, learning capability, it can very fast to build up your domain knowledge, meaning large language model already basically they scratch every knowledge base on the internet. However, there's a lot of business they have their domain knowledge. This is not something they want to share publicly. So when you enterprise they build up your own AI agent, it can learn from your domain knowledge to build up the internal guideline or internal SLA for your customers. Yes, AI agent is a very good direction, but it still takes a time. Yeah, thank you.
I think when you were speaking before the panel, you mentioned about given the challenge of the learning capability of a lot of the AI agents, you also try to help businesses use different models, have a multi-model approach. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Okay, this is something we're trying in our technology department. So when you're trying to manage the hallucination, when we're trying to make the AI agents to learn by themselves, we think one of the ways to using different large language model to train your AI agent or train your AI bot, meaning you can using one large language model to manage the AI bot's understanding. And you can use another large language model together with the RAGs to build up your domain knowledge base so that you can have a much better vector database to answer the customer's inquiry. And then maybe you can use another large language model to manage the output of your AI agent so that he will not give much hallucination. Why we are considering this way, we also have the practice because we are working with some government agents. The government agency, their sustainability of the error rate is very low. because they are serving most of the citizens here. If you answer the wrong question or if you give hallucination, that's gonna be a very bad reputation for the government. That's why this is one way we can manage how to get the high quality output from the AI agents and reduce the hallucination.
All right. Yeah. Thanks so much for that. I mean, that's a huge topic, but thanks for distilling it into some key points for our audience. At this point, I want to just open the floor.
Some of the keywords I picked up, hopefully I picked up the right ones. AI, startups, engagement, outbound marketing, innovation, efficiency, and so on and so forth. I speak from the point of view of a boutique private credit lender without any baggage of a legacy system, of which I have seen a lot in my 25 years in US and UK banks. What I would like to ask the panel is it possible to build an end-to-end AI-based system for a small boutique lender which manages everything from origination all the way to collection? We have made our own small beginning in that direction, but we are bankers, we are not technologists. So, for example, just to be very specific, there are 28,000 SMEs in Singapore. We focus only on the SME sector because that's where banks don't compete and we have the best returns. To pick out the princes from those 28,000 frogs, you can imagine how many frogs we have to kiss. We want to cut that down. Is there any possibility of doing that?
Sure. So yeah, I used to head the startup solution architecture team for India before I moved to ASEAN. And back in India, there are many startups that are in the whole process of similar giving out loans to SMBs, and many of them now are used by the larger banks because the larger banks have a process and they take a very long time to do things, whereas these startups make a decision on whether a loan and how much amount of loan has to be given in a matter of seconds or minutes, right? So they just collect some basic data and things. How that's happening is that they're relying on a lot of different sources of data that they query in real time to know whether this particular company has any court cases lying or they've had any issues with the credit bureau or any of those kind of things. And then there is a set of things that are done just basis the documentation and everything given, where they use AI to, they have some trained models to make some credit risk decisions, but they also use things like generative AI to kind of read through a whole bunch of documents, summarize it, get to see whether data points are there and all that. Generative AI is not like the ultimate tool for everything here. Some parts of it is very traditional machine learning to do your risk modeling. Some part of it is just pure API calls and getting data and getting some flags and maybe creating a scoring mechanism. And some part of it can definitely be things that you could use generative AI and the features that it provides to automate certain things. So it's not here's generative AI, we can just solve everything. But yeah, so to answer your first question of whether you can build something, the answer is yes, but it's not just a one single tool to kind of do a thing, it's a mixture of various things.
We're actually helping banks in this process as well, and I would not recommend you trying to build the process from top down. I think what he's also getting at is you really break it into pieces and then you try to probably see, okay, where do we need a specialist provider, where do we probably need to change something in our system, and so on. What I can already say at this point is if you're looking to collect a lot of data, then there are a company like us, a company on this panel, who can help you with that. And that will be at least a starting point for a team who knows, okay, I need a data lake for this purpose, I need one for that purpose, and it needs to run on AWS, of course. And so then we need to find a way to funnel it and stitch it all together and immediately make a decision, right? So I guess from that perspective, you would have to look into where do I find these providers, and then if you want to build in-house, yeah, maybe that's also an option. What we see is these alternative lenders or generally banks do is for the basics, the things that's supposed to be a commodity, they should be done by an outsourced vendor. But when it comes to your internal process, etc., then you might want to have somebody in-house who manages that. That's as much as I can say. And specifically here, one last point on using generative AI. Surely not off the shelf. That is really risky because you will likely end up having the most costly solution that anyone can build on top of generative AI, unless you invest a lot, you have a huge team, how to do that specific fine-tuning for your use case, and eventually figure out a way to eventually carve a model out and run it on your own server eventually. But this is a very long story. So to really shortcut this and get going and use a provider, use somebody who does that for a living, has better cost infrastructure from you from the get-go compared to you. Yeah.
Let's put it this way, right? Our company is mainly dealing with a conversation or talk about. I'm not an expert in your territory. Many of the banks who have the micro loan or business, they are our customers. What we understand is they do have their own model they build up by their own. This is number one. Number two, their own model connected with a lot of database to get the credit score. So this is number two. Number three, when you talk about you are trying to build up by yourself, it's going to be a very tough situation because currently the fundamental large language model still change very fast. For example, yesterday, Anthropic released a new model, and that one actually is very interesting because using that large language model already, the model can use the computer usage. They can use the computer, meaning if you have the application in your computer, your large language model already can automatically using that application based on your instruction. My suggestion is when you're trying to really explore the opportunity of the AI products for your company, there are two things at least you should do. Number one, you need to integrate with most of your system with the AI products. Don't treat the AI, especially AI agent, as a tool. You should treat them as part of your business. You need to use them to integrate with your CRM, with your ERP, and being part of your business, you will feel his productivity out of that is number one. Number two, structured data and enhanced database is very essential for your business decision. You need to using a lot of API integrations with a lot of trustable database so that you can enhance your own risk model to decide the credit limits to your customers. Yeah, that's my suggestion.
Just a couple of thoughts there. I think most of them I've mentioned is, I think the main one is building from scratch is possible, but it's a long shot, I would say. Second is the basic is, again, as a business or as an entity, for AI to work, it's about having that structured data. As a business, you'll have financials, you'll have accounts payable, you'll have accounts receivable, so that's basic. But if you're getting it or storing it in different papers or in different systems, then it's hard for any AI to work in that. Forget AI, even you if you want to get something, it goes back to, you have to have a structured way of storing it in that way. And I think one of you mentioned about sources or integration or something. And that's where, again, goes back to that structured data where when you utilize a tool, it's very important to have a unified tool that interconnects those different processes. Because if you have one tool for CRM, one tool for ERP, one tool for sales and many other things, the hard part for you is, they're all structured there, but they're not interconnected. Then how will you get to the next steps? Then it's another layer for you to worry about. Having an interconnected solution that talks from sales to accounting to finance to payables, they're all interconnected anyway, regardless of what business you are. Whatever sales do, whatever procurement does, they will have an effect in your financial data. At the end of the day, it's a connected data is really what matters most. And as I mentioned earlier, and I've read it in a couple of different journals, the training fuel is really the data for AI. The hard part is consolidating them and consuming them for that AI model to really learn and model and train on, put it that way.
Yeah, so basically have a roadmap and then do it modularly. Don't fry the whole ocean together at the same. That's our approach.
All right, thank you so much for that question. Next, we have another one.
I just want to build off your answer, Franco, on the data management part. So I'm coming from a bank here, and I think one of my challenge has been that we're using many different systems for marketing, for sales, and so we don't really have centralized data platform per se. And so when we embark on Gen AI transformation, right, we don't know where to start. Maybe for the startup here and also to AWS and Oracle. What are some of the ways that you have seen company work with enterprise to kickstart Gen AI and to mitigate the risk of the incumbent doesn't have the centralized data platform? How do you go about that when you start your engagement? Perhaps it will be very useful for some of us here.
I think for us is what other organizations will do is, because if they have disparate systems, the first step is to consolidate them into a data lake, for example.
So that could take 2 to 3 years, right?
But that's the problem, right? It's also the problem why we also pitch into the organizations. Don't buy separate things, because there are solutions where they are interconnected already. That lessens the headache later on. But if that's the problem right now, then it is what it is. The first step is to consolidate it. And that's where interconnected systems will come. I mean, ERP is all about interconnecting things. So you have a solution for procurement, supply chain, and manufacturing, and accounts payables. So at least you have a quick subset of different processes that are interconnected. But of course, different use cases, different companies, different enterprise, they have other solutions. And that's where that data lake will come into the picture.
Yeah, I was gonna just address it too. We've seen it multiple times, and I think first of all, I can tell you what not to do, which is listen to one specific cloud provider telling you that they're gonna do all of it anyway. They're gonna be launching Copilot, it's all gonna come together one day, and it's gonna be beautiful. And then all that happens is your subscription doubles or triples per seat level. So that's one way not to do it. I think what we have already seen is when you start using products that not just say I've got something AI, but they actually AI powered products, then usually you get a lot of data with this, right? So these tools will not be lock the data away anymore. It's not best practice. So when you do it and you use product like Wiz, product like FileAI, etc. So what happens is we're not actually an interface to you. We're actually connecting your systems already. You just don't really see that immediately. But for example, when we consume the applications for your underwriting team, whether that is cards, whether that is loans, etc., then we're structuring unstructured data into structured source, and then we can push it into multiple of your systems at the same time, credit scoring, etc. And that data is available to you now already, structured in tables, sitting on an S3 bucket somewhere or whichever cloud you're using. You're not trying to change the existing structure, you're just overlaying AI systems here and there's systems there, and eventually they will make that data available for you, right? And so we're going to allow you, it's not even on our cloud, it's on your cloud, so we're going to allow you to build on top of that. And you don't need to listen to one company that says, oh, I'm going to do all that for you, it's a pipe dream, I'm going to connect to Salesforce, to Oracle, everything. So eventually, as you build these AI features in your company, hopefully using my product and his product and everybody else's product, then you're going to have access to that data much easier over time, right? And it's going to be much richer too, because these are AI-powered products to begin with. So I think that's the best way for especially a bank to go, to think about how can we change everything, where do you even, as you said, where do you even start? And then you did 2 M&As in the last 5 years, so then there's other businesses who also need to be merged together in this, or how does it work, right? So I think this can be very complex to think that way.
All these are valid approaches, right? You can look at various different solutions. Heatwave, there are ISV partners like Databricks or Snowflake. Many of them look at trying to kind of take this different data sources in one and put a layer on top that you can query and things. That's definitely an approach to speeding up things. There is also the approach of moving everything to structured over a period of time. Also the approach of tiers and getting everything together in one thing. As actually also thinking about, it all depends also on the use cases, right? We've seen banks doing this, where I took the example of customer support, for example. If you take just customer support and customer support automation, like the one you're mentioning about changing the IVR to a voice-based conversation, all you need is a ton of existing customer support conversations or recordings that have happened in the past, transcribe them, and you can train a model which just does that, right? Many of these pre-trained models allow you to do that in a siloed way without having to actually first integrate all your sources. You just need the data that you need, pull all that out, run a training, and you can get certain things out, and you can get started with that. And then you set a bunch of APIs, technologies like agents that can actually go and fetch whatever data is required from whichever different system is needed, and then all that consolidation happens at the time of the AI having that interface as with the user, right? So there's ways of looking at it. Of course, it depends on what the use case is and what data you need for that use case, and then there's always ways to start the journey without having to first, dig the earth and construct everything.
Bank actually is a very extreme cases for AI utilization, because bank need to take care of the data privacy, you need to take care of the compliance, you need to take care of the. Sometimes your system has to be on-premise. You are not that easy to use for open SaaS, so this is one thing. Secondly, large language model is still on the way to innovate itself. So there are many different large language models. Because we're dealing a lot of business with the banking industry, Singapore DBS, CBC, Indonesia, BRI, we were the biggest bank in Indonesia. So we understand is different bank, they also have the different preference on the large language model. And based on some of the large language experts saying, eventually some of the people, I was one of them, we believe there gonna be a universal model come out. And that one will have the biggest capability to integrate with other systems. However, to integrate with different systems, actually there's no quickest way to do this, unless you are going to invest enough budget to have a lot of people with new technology support before you can really make that happen. But other stuff, I think also people already mentioned about that. To be very frank, there's no simple solution for this.
All right, thank you so much.